Let's change the kernel version that is booting by default. First, let's identify the version that is booting by default. Let's reboot the system. Watch the post. Now we can see and explore the main menus presented by Grub. We can go into each by pressing E, explore the version that is being presented, the kernel version, which is the .54, and we can go down anymore. That's the bottom end of the code of the section. Here we go into the advanced and we scroll down and find out the .54 version presented. Here we can see there are more parameters into lines. Now we can go, this is also still .54 version of the kernel. .53 is no longer present. No longer present on disk, but in this file never got updated. This is another .53 version, .1. Also updated, no longer present. Scroll down. This is the bottom. We escape it and then we go back to the two menu options and we're going to boot up to the default that is being presented. Once the system is fully loaded up, we're going to find our bootloader. We have Grub2 installed. Our main configuration file is this one, which points to this location. We're going to inspect this file. And we can see as the beginning of the first menu entry, the corresponding matching to what we saw in the menu, what we saw at the booting time, this one being that one, and this one being the advanced other entry. In each one, in the first one, we're going to have the existing Linux kernel, which is at the boot partition, at the root of the boot partition, and this is the full kernel. Down on the advanced submenu or the other second entry that we saw, then we can tell the different kernel that the system is calling or trying to boot. And this one, we no longer have them on available. So this is outdated configuration. We're going to take care of that. The existing kernels that we have is the 553, 54, 66, and 81. Neither of the two latest entries are being outdated into this group configuration. Despite the fact that the system is configured to tell the kernel package that every time a new kernel is being installed, um, updates the system to the latest. Now, the main configuration file advises at the top of the file that all the different snippets and pieces of files that make up the Grub environment, uh, such as etc default grub and everything that is in this location, is supposed to be collected by grub make config and generate the ultimate etc grub.cfg. Now let's run the make config and find out what exactly is grub detecting. It looks like it is creating, detecting the new versions, the patched versions of the kernel, and updating it. It is putting the 81, the newest, the latest one at the top, and leaving the existing ones after at the bottom. 66, and then we should find the 54. So it is doing what we expected to do. As we can see, Grub is finding the kernels available on disk. Now, let's find out if Grub is updating its own configuration file, as it should. And it is not. It is still seeing the oldest kernels. Not sure why isn't by default doing it and updating that location, but we are going to take care of that by manually generating the configuration and putting it into the expected location by Grub. Here is how we manually run the make config command by Grub and generate the configuration manually into disk. Now let's inspect what it was written down to Grub configuration file. So we're now seeing the 81 at the top as the default option, and then we continue with this 66 down here, and the next one over is the 54. Perfect. And we can see that it's now consistent with what we have available on the under the boot location, which is our partition for the kernels. Now we're going to delete these kernels. At least we're going to delete one of them. Okay. Let's take care of the oldest. Of course, it's not gonna let us to do that, eh? Because we're running on that particular one, the oldest one. So now let's do a reboot and see what the bootloader is going to show us. So after reboot, we can now see that the version that has loaded is the latest. Now we can get rid of those two. In in theory, the best practice is called for waiting a few hours or days, depending on your workloads, to determine if the latest kernel is stable. It's not introducing new issues to the system. Technically speaking, in this release, the only differences with the previous one are just security bug fixes. So it is not introducing new features or loading new modules that we anticipate. So it is just correcting security bugs. Now let's try to delete the older kernel. The latest, the oldest is the 54, so let's go with that one. Now it is not complaining as before, and it's letting me just go. No issues. And in theory, that deletion also should be able to, the pause scripts should be updating the grub. But if we go and see, let's go to 54, we still have it. So something is going on inside the system that is not updating the grub. Doesn't matter, it's not a big deal. We're going to do it ourselves. Let's take a copy of that and let's compare it. Alt. Now we're gonna update it, and let's find out if it did, whether it is giving us a rundown of what is seen and what is updating there. So if we compare the new version, this one, with the old version we just copy locally, this is what is seen. So in the older version had all of this extra in the older version. We just have this symbol that shows the one of the two that I'm comparing. This one on the right is the one that is pointing to have this extra code. There you have it. That's how we update the grub to the latest, so it will match up to the correct version the next time we boot the system. Now let's reboot the system and inspect the new entries created by the updated grub configuration. Now let's inspect and verify visually that what Grub updated on the OS is the same as is being shown by the Grub loader. Now we can see as the first menu entry that we have the latest version, .81. This is all what we can get on the first entry. On the second entry, advanced option, we can go and inspect. Now we have, that's the first one, the 81.1, the single version. Just keep scrolling down. We see now the .66 version. And that's it. Escape and boot the 81 version. Okay, we have now loaded up the system, and there we have it, the 81 version loaded. So that's it. And this is the two available kernels on disk that we could use at any given point.